guys, welcome to another session of Cassadara Learning. Today we are going to see about multi-dimensional arrays in Java. Before that, let's do a quick recap of the last session. Last session we were talking about single dimensional arrays in Java, right? So we'll see what are the points we touched upon in the last session. We saw that arrays are continuous allocation of memory of same type of data, right? So they are allocated continuously in the memory and the data type of each element will be the same. That is, if that is the case, then that is called an array. Basically a set of same type of data. We saw that how they are defined and accessed. If you remember, we use square brackets to define an array alongside the variable names. So the variable name will be defined like the type name, say for example int arr square brackets equal to, and then another open close square bracket inside which all the values will be specified, or if it is going to be an empty array, we will use the new keyword. And then we saw about the concept of addressing. So we understood that memory, each and every location of the memory will have an address, which will basically be a number, and then it will be continuous for every byte, every continuous byte, right? Now if we want to allocate a continuous set of memory, we take the starting address and then we add the number of bytes based on the type of the data. That is how we understood how it is being accessed and addressed. This is what we saw as part of the as part of understanding the single dimensional arrays. Now let us see what are multi-dimensional, or to start with, what are two-dimensional arrays. Two-dimensional arrays are nothing but an array of single dimensional arrays. Again, everything is the same. It has to have same type of data and the memory allocation will be continuous, but it is an array of a single dimensional array of array, right? So two-dimensional arrays are arrays of single dimensional arrays, and it is used to represent set of sets. So we called it a set of data, right? Any data that is stored in an array will be a set of data because they are of same type. So two-dimensional arrays are basically set of sets. It's a set of multiple sets of data. So basically it will be represented, for our understanding, it will be represented as rows and columns. Think about it. We have each row will have multiple data entities, which means each row is a set, and for two-dimensional arrays we will have multiple rows in it. So a two-dimensional array is used to represent a set of sets, the rows and columns. Like say for example, if it is a number type, we call it as a matrix, or if it is a character type, we call it as a list of names or list of strings, basically. Because a name is a set of characters, right? If I have to represent a list of names, if I need memory to allocate a list of names, then we go for a two-dimensional array, for example. Now let us see how do we define and how the addressing happens in case of 2D arrays. Because like I said, in memory we don't have any rows and columns defined as such, right? Memory is a continuous space of bytes, and each byte is numbered by its address. That's all. So now how do we allocate two-dimensional arrays, or sets of sets, or values with rows and columns into a straight set of memory? that is a challenge, right? So let's see how it happens. So before that, we need to see how a two-dimensional array was defined. So it's very similar to a single dimensional array, but we will use two square brackets. Two square brackets. So int the variable name followed by two square brackets equal to, there will be an outer square bracket which represents the entire array, and inside which each row is encapsulated in a square bracket. And then inside the row square bracket we have column values separated by commas, and each row is also separated by a comma. This is how we define a two-dimensional array with values. Now if we want to define an empty array, it is very simple. Int arr square bracket equal to new, the keyword new is used for empty array, int 2, 3. So 2 being the number of rows and 3 number of columns. So we define an empty array. Okay, let us see how it can be accessed. So we want to access the one here, the first element of a 2 cross 3 two-dimensional array, 2 rows 3 columns two-dimensional array. 0, 0 will return the value of first column of the first row, which means it will return 1. Similarly, if 1 and 2 means it is second row third column, so it will return 6. So this is the second row and this is the third column, right? So it will return 6. Alright, now let us see how these values are calculated and retrieved. This is the formula. So it will take the start address which will be stored in the value arr and then add it to the row index, that is 1. So this is the row index, this is the column index, right? So the starting address plus row index into size of type into total columns. So row index 1, size of type is 4, in this case int is 4 bytes, and total columns is 3. So 1 into 4 into 3, which is 12. So start address plus 12 plus column index, which is 2, into size of type, which is 4. So 4 into 2 is 8. So 12 plus 8, 20 plus the start address. Assuming start address is 100, so 120 will be the total, the value of this formula. Now if you look at 120, where it will be, this will be 100, it will be 104, 108, 112, 116, 120. So this value will be. Okay, let us see this example where I am trying to create a matrix and load values into the matrix and print it in order. Okay, so I have defined, for this I have defined a class called matrix, and inside the main function I am getting two integer values, rows and columns. So after this I will have two values, after this statement I will have two values, which is rows and columns. Now after once I got rows and columns, I can define the two-dimensional array, right? So I am defining here int matrix, matrix is the variable name, 2 square brackets equal to new int, I am defining an empty array, new int rows columns. So for the defined size, I have defined an empty two-dimensional array. Now I need to fill values into it. For that I am using two for loops in a nested fashion. So one for loop is inside another. Why am I doing this? I am doing this because for each row I have to iterate every column and then fill the values there. Then go to the next row, fill the values there, like that. So for that, the outer for loop represents the rows and the inner for loop is for filling the columns. So I have a nested for loop here structure. So in this nested for loop structure, for each value I say enter value for ij, which means whatever the value I and j is at that point of time, and then I assign matrix of ij equal to, and then scan a value, put it there. So I am getting each value and put it there, each column's value of every row, and then I put it there. After this entire for loop is completed, the entire matrix will be filled. Now I want to print it. So what I do is, again the same structure, each and every column I have to take it out, print it with a space. Inside the line, inside the row, I have to give a space between each value, right? So I add a space here, but I don't use println, so that it will print in the same line with the space added. But after the line is completed, I say println, which means it will print a new line there. So after every row there will be a new line, after every column there will be a space. So this way I will be able to print the matrix in order. Okay, let's see if I am able to run this program and what happens. It's asking for the number of rows, so I give the number of rows as 2. Now it's asking for the number of columns, I give as 3. So it is a 2 cross 3 matrix. I'm going to enter the value for 0, 0 index. So I say 1, 2, 3. The first row is done. Now it is asking for 1, 0, which means the second row. 4, 5, 6. See, it is printing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the order of a matrix. It's very simple. Hope you like it. Now let's go back to the summary. Summary, what we have understood is, we understood that two-dimensional arrays are still continuously allocated memory that represents a set of sets or data with rows and columns, right? So we can define arrays with values or just an empty set. With values we use square brackets for each row, and for each row the square bracket contains columns separated by commas, and each row, each set is also separated by comma, and each set is encapsulated by square brackets, and overall the array is separated by an outer square bracket. Whereas if it is an empty set, then we use the new type followed by number of rows, number of columns in square brackets. That is how we define arrays. And we also understood the addressing technique of two-dimensional arrays. The formula is starting address plus the number of the total number of columns into data type into the column index, the row index, plus column index into the type size. So we discussed this earlier. Hope you understood that. And based on that, the continuous allocations can be segregated into rows, and then it can be accessed column by column inside that row set. So this is how we handle two-dimensional arrays in memory. So the basis of all this is the entire set has to be, the size of the entire set has to be definite, and the type of the data should be the same. That is the condition, precondition for defining arrays. Either it is single dimensional or two dimensional. So yeah, keep practicing. See you on the next session. Until then, have fun. Bye.